Well, my name is John Kane. I work in this museum as a guide, taking folk round. And before that, I actually did work in the mines. I worked in the mines for 37 years. And I actually done my underground training here in this mine. Then, at that time, you had to be trained before you're allowed underground. That was after nationalisation taking over the mines. See, let you understand, long ago, my father would just shut the manager's door and say, I'll take my boys in. After nationalisation, that stopped. I shut the manager's door and I asked them if I could get a job. And my interview consisted, is your father a miner? Aye, start Monday. That was your interview. And then you went through the procedures, you work in the pit head. Then again asked if you wanted to go underground. Long ago you weren't asked. Nationalisation changed that. A lot of safety came in and that was one of them. They asked you if you wanted to go down. And that was it, you know. And then after that you went through our procedures. You also weren't allowed a cold face until you were 18. Long ago my father would have just taken me in. But no, you had to go through a 3-month face training and you had to be 18. Then after that you got a certificate. That was your cold face training. And that certificate travelled all over with you. Any mine you went to, that followed you. It went from the mine you were in to the next mine. So that you couldn't kid on, you were cold face training. You know, and that was the procedure. Well, this is a pit head, and I'm going to give you a brief tour how it worked, you know. And to let you understand, where we stand, that wasn't here. There were stairs, and you went down the bottom of those stairs. And that's where you were searched. You were searched for contraband, cigarettes, matches, battery watches, anything that could create a spark. If you're caught with cigarettes and matches there, they didn't take them off you, they didn't send you back, you lost your job. There was no nonsense with cigarettes and matches. There was a gas explosion in this mine, there were 4 men killed. So there were no nonsense with cigarettes and matches. And once you were searched, you'd make your way up those stairs, and you could just imagine, if you look along there, that was full of men at 6:30 in the morning. That was all full of men, all waiting to go underground. Now if you just come along here, as I say, this would be all full of men, all waiting to go underground. Now that man there would take your round token. To let you understand, every miner gets 2 tokens. You get a round token and you get a square token. And he had his own personal number on the token. My number, for example, was 837. And before an underground, that man there would take my round one. You kept the square one, and the round one was sent along to the time office where it would on a big board, and that was head count. They knew exactly how many men was underground, who they were, where they were. Then you came out, you handed them your square one, they put the 2 of them together, and that was you out safe. There was nobody allowed underground without a token. So he would take your round token, and that was the cages there. And it's a double-decker cage. 30 men in the top and 30 men in the bottom. So that cage contained 60 men. And he would take the first 30 would go down the bottom floor, then the cage would come down, then they've got those stairs, and 30 went in the top. And it was you know, that was it. Then it would go down. And when that was going down, 9 times out of 10, there'd be 60 men coming up. You know, that's how it worked, you know. And once when it was cold, every one of them weighed a ton. And it was 8 ton. 4 tons in the bottom deck and 4 tons in the top deck. And with 8 ton of coal coming up, there were 8 empties going down. See, it was just a secret, you know. And it had two speeds. You weren't allowed on the cage when it was called the fast wind. That was for men. Sorry, that was for coal. Then the slow banking wind was for men. wasn't very slow, but went a lot slower than it did with coal, you know. It was just a constant up and down with coal, you know, and you weren't allowed on the cage. And if you just look through here, that's exactly what it looked like, a typical circuit. All the full ones would be round there, round the turntable, onto the keeper chain, went up, got weighed, went through, tippled over, and the empty went to the other side and back on the ground again. You know? And as I said, this was a shaft, you know, and that was the cages. You notice how it's all full of holes? All cages are like that, for a good flow of air. You always had a good flow of air going up and down your shaft, you know. And this was the deepest mine in Scotland, and its time, 1894. This was classed as, in fact, some say it was the deepest mine in Europe, and it was 1,650 feet deep, which in those days was a deep mine. Modern mining, no. What was the last mine I worked in was Bilson Glen. It was 3,000 feet deep, a lot deeper than that, you know. But that was classed as a deep mine in its time. And this is this map here gives you an idea that that's all underground. And that's all the types of coal that was in this mine. And you notice where if you came in this way, you notice the big New Battle, the big bridge. Well, that's the bridge there. They left that solid. They never touched it. What that's indicating, that is solid all the way around. They never touched the coal beneath that, because that was the main Waverley line to London. So we take no chances there. And that was the Abbey. Well, long ago, the Marcus Lothian stayed in the Abbey, so he wasn't taking the coal for his own house. Everybody else is I, but no, he's in. And he was the main man in this mine at that time. You know. And that was all the roads, these roads here. You know. This was a vast area, you know. And that there is the Sheriff Hall roundabout. Well, it's the Sheriff Hall fault. Even when I was a boy, I knew all about the Sheriff Hall fault. That there indicates the fault. There's no coal after that. And now you've got a big roundabout, and it's called the Sheriff Hall roundabout. So I think that's where that name came from. Because I can assure you that name was always, when I was a boy, the Sheriff Hall fault. If you're talking down the mine, it was the Sheriff Hall fault. I'm just explaining here that this was, we called this the back of the pit. It didn't matter where you worked. If somebody says to you, you go to the back of the pit, that's where you went. If they say to you, you go to the front of the pit, you went round there. And that's what it was called. And the back of the pit, long ago, there'd be two men standing behind that tub there. And they'd run with it. And they'd bang the full one on the cage. And there'd be two men at the other side pulling the full ones off. And then the empty would take the place of the full one and down. You know, that's how it worked. And it was then it was it was double decking then. There'd be an artificial cages rails up here and all, you know. And then in 1961 they made it single decking. It was all done by the bottom. They put a ram in there. That man presses a button. The ram pushes the empty pushes the full one, and that was it. It was just a circuit all the time, you know. And you might get, you'll hear a lot of folks saying, what do you mean by double decking and single decking? That was it. Long ago, this was run by double decking. They were an artificial platform here, taking the empties down and the full ones down. Then in 1961, it became single decking. They get rid of that, and it was done a lot faster, you know, because of the rams. This is as I said, when I came round there, this aileron, that was the weighbridge. The full would come up the creeper chain, stop there, got weighed, because every one of them had special numbers on them, just with a piece of chalk, and that's how you were paid. You were paid with the tonnage. You know, if you worked in number 8, every time number 8 was there, you get paid for that. And once it was weighed, the full one would come through there, right into the tippler. That man would press a button, it would tipple over, the coal fell down, the empty went back round, and back on the ground again. and the coal would go that way. And that area there, we've got a better view when we come down, but that area there was the picking tables. That was your first job when you left the school. This is us getting to the coal road now. Now this here is what the miners would call a coal road. This is where you start winning the coal, from here anyway. You'd be a belt conveyor at that side, transporting the coal out. You'd have a set of rails at this side, with small cars, take materials into miners, like wood, girders, props, whatever the miner required. But this being a coal road, you're taking the coal out, the weight would come on this road. This road would crush down at bits as low as this. All these girders would all bend and buckle. The pavement would squeeze up. So what they'd have to do then, they'd have to put men in here who in Scotland are called back brushers. In England, they're called back rippers. These men would take some of the old girders out, put fresh girders in, any bad stones, pull them down, even lift some of the pavement up to make it reasonably comfortable for the miners to go out into his work, for the coal to get out, but most important, to get equipment that's in here back out again when this section's finished. You're talking at this day and age, you'd be talking about between 15 to 20 million pounds worth of stuff in here. That's the main reason to keep this a reasonable height. This road could go as far as a mile, you know, and this is where it would start, you know. And as I said, it's a wee bit complicated here, but to let you understand, us standing here looking that way, see this right hand side, there'd be 750 feet of coal taken out of there, and all that's collapsed in there, and that's what puts weight in this road. It's quite complicated here, but you'll certainly pick it up when you see it when you go in, you know, and that's how it works. Okay? Well, as you can see, that was a coal face there. As I told you, it was an average of 750 feet long. This road here, the miners called this the main gate. 750 feet up there, there'd be another road, and that was called the tailgate. Now your fresh air would come in the main gate, go up the wall, feed the men, and everybody's bad air went out the tailgate. That's how it was aired. Fresh air coming in here, and the bad air going out the tailgate. Right? And the coal would come out here, fall onto a conveyor, and head out. Well, this being a high section, that machine's got two discs on it. One disc is cutting the top coal, and one disc is cutting the bottom coal. And at the present moment, looking at it now, it's heading towards the tailgates, going that way. You know? This is again, this is the back end of this is the last of the coal journey. Actually, you can see these are the lies. The coal would all come out, and they were all bunkers. That's a bunker, there were another bunker, and the coal fell into the wagons, anyway, you know, and this would be all railway lines. You see that fence down there? Just over that fence was the Waverley line to London. So it's nice and handy to run this. That was right up through the borders, right up to Carlisle, and that was their main contract, was the borders, you know, for the woolen mills. So that was nice and handy for that, you know. But that's, and if you look at the numbers there, a lot of people wonder what the numbers is for, and nobody really knows, but I'm positive the numbers was for the lorries. When the railway closed down, they put the numbers up. When the lorry got a chitty, that was what lie he had to go to. It was numbered, you know, and he would get to the lie. I'm positive that's what that was for. And if you look that way, that was the new battle workshops. That was one of the most important bits in mining. That was a very, very busy place. And that done the whole of the loading workshop for all the mines in Loading. Well, I hope you've enjoyed your tour. That's this is you back to square one. This is you back to what we call the time office. This is where you got your lamp, things like that, and that's your old checkboard that was telling you about your tokens, you know. And
As I say, what you've seen, that is your tour. So I hope to see you.